This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety, so go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Hey, Kenny, time for another episode. Today, we're going to talk about solar, how it works, how you can do it yourself, what it takes, what we have, and hopefully share some good info with our listeners.
I think people get intimidated sometimes with the solar setups. I know I was definitely intimidated. And I think maybe some people are a little confused of how it all works. And I can't think of anybody better to explain that than you. So there you go. Right. I'll just lead you right into it.
Yeah, right. There's lots of people that are experts in solar. I definitely don't claim to be an expert, but I learned a lot just by trial and error. I think by doing our RV that we had before and also installing on this RV and helping some other people with theirs as well. So definitely a lot of trial and error. And that's the way I learned. I know a little, just enough to be dangerous.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I would say the same about myself. I only did that little portable setup, but I'm about to put some up on the roof. I know just enough to be dangerous. Yeah, that is a good way. But maybe we'll talk about maybe why somebody would want solar first, and then maybe go into an explanation of how it works. So I think the benefits of the solar is just to be able to get off grid. And that's what I've always thought is solar is a great way to get off grid and still have power in your RV to operate all of your functions. But you found another great benefit for solar, even at a campground.
So we were at a campground that metered electricity. The way it was set up in my previous RV was I had a sub panel that I ran all my solar energy through. So we basically ran as much as we could on the sub panel and then only used the campground electric for when we wanted to run our ACs.
Yeah.
When we went to check out at the end of the month, the bill was like $20-something for the electricity, and the lady thought the meter was broken. So Julie asked what it typically was, and they said, for a big coach that's using everything, it's like $150 a month. It's a pretty good savings at a campground as well.
Yeah, so that's a great incentive right there. Save some money at the campground. So you're cutting the cord at the campground or while you're out and about while boondocking too. So it's two really good reasons of why you may want to add solar to your RV.
Yeah, and I think I haven't done the analysis to see if we've actually paid off the investment, but I think you probably have with your, when you had your 2 panels and your batteries, you were able to stay away from campgrounds for quite a while, which is saving you money right there. And then I bet you're close to profiting sort of off of that investment.
Yeah, I think so. By going with Sabrina and I did the portable solar kit setup. It was fairly inexpensive for the 2 panels, and the solar charge controller were right around $300. And then for the cable, maybe another $40 for the cable. I don't even think it was that expensive. And that's the whole thing. So for $350, we had our solar set up, and that's 1 week of a campground right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that sense, yeah, financially, the system paid for itself fairly quickly. Maybe it doesn't always work that way for everybody, but I would say that you get the value out of it the very first time you get to use it. And you're out boondocking, and you're still able to watch your TV as long as you want, or run your furnace, or have your refrigerator running. I feel like that's the value, even maybe financial, dollar for dollar. Maybe it's not working out, but being able to use those freedoms and collect in a different way definitely pays for itself in a sense.
Enjoying the peace and quiet when you're out away from people, just enjoying nature, not having to run a generator makes a huge difference in the experience.
If you
So,
wanted, oops, sorry.
in that sense, I would say it is worth the investment if that's something that's important to you.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of benefits to the solar. I'm going to attempt to describe how solar works, and then Sean can correct any mistakes I make. So the common question that I get, and Sean probably gets too, is like, how much can you run off of your solar? What can you operate in your RV from solar? And I always tell people, really nothing. The solar only charges our batteries, and then from there, everything runs off of our batteries. And that happens in two different ways. Either it's through DC 12 volt direct, such as your lights and your circuit boards for your propane and refrigerator, or it goes through an inverter, which is where the DC power, the 12 volt, goes into your inverter, and that inverts it into your AC power. And then you're able to operate your television, maybe a toaster or microwave and things like that. So really the batteries is what's powering everything. The solar is just getting that power to those batteries. And kind of think of your batteries as they have a certain amount of capacity, and you're using that capacity. As they're using that capacity and you're starting to run low, or all the way through, actually, the solar is putting the power back into that battery, trying to get you back to full again. I believe that's the simplest way to maybe explain it, Sean. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you can get like really nerdy about it and say like the solar panels are taking the photons from the sun and converting that into DC power.
Mm-hmm.
But that power is not right for going into your batteries or going into some type of inverter. So you need a charge controller that's going to regulate that DC power coming out of the panels to either a 12 volt or 24 volt or 48 volt. There it will go into your batteries and can flow through the inverter to turn it into AC power, or like you said, run that stuff off of DC power. But really, it's the storage that is powering your stuff in your RV. It's not going straight from the solar panel to your circuit board in your RV.
Yeah, the batteries are probably one of the most important part to your solar setup. The more battery power you have, or more capacity you have, the longer you're going to be able to run the items, especially once you have a pretty major setup where you can operate. What can you run in your RV from your batteries? Just everything, right? AC and all?
Yeah, I can run everything.
Yeah.
Not for a long time because I only have 400 amp hour batteries, but yeah, we can operate everything.
I have a more simple setup. I can run everything except for our AC and microwave. And that comes down to, I guess, also an inverter. So we have a 1,000 watt inverter that allows us to do TV, maybe a small toaster, a small coffee maker, but we're limited to our 1,000 watt inverter. You have what, Sean? What's your
3,000 watt? I have
So
a 3,000 watt inverter. So that allows me to power a lot more. And since we have essentially a 30 amp coach, as long as we're not running a bunch of stuff all at once, we can run everything. What's that saying? You can have anything, but you can't have everything.
Yeah, I think so.
So we can run anything, but we can't run everything.
And then, like you said, you have 400 amp hours. So again, like you're saying, you can run everything, but the more you run, the quicker you go through that power. And that's why you want as much amp hours as you can possibly get. We both have Battleborn batteries, which were a big upgrade for us. For Sabrina and I, they were a huge upgrade because we went from Group 24 to Group 24 batteries to the Battleborn battery. So we jumped up something from I think we only had 50 to 75 usable amp hours from those two batteries. And when we put the two Battleborn batteries, then we went all the way up to 200 usable amp hours. So it was a noticeable difference for us.
Yeah, and I think the lithium batteries and Battleborn in particular, because of the battery controls that they have in there, we've taken ours definitely down to 0 and charged them up. And I know you have as well before. Yes. That's another great feature of, again, going to storage. You can have flooded lead acid batteries, which require a lot of maintenance. I was frankly terrible at doing the maintenance on those. So mine would only last me, a year and a half to 2 years. Whereas I have friends that were religious about that maintenance on the batteries, and theirs lasted 5 years. So my laziness didn't help me in this case.
I feel like I took care of my batteries and I only got 2 years out of them, but I was doing all that stuff. I still only got 2 years out of my batteries.
Were your batteries new when you started RVing?
No, they weren't. Maybe that's why.
So the last guy probably didn't do that.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's true. If you take consideration how long he had the coach and I had the coach, so we got 2.5 years out of ours.
Or you can get AGM batteries, which are still lithium batteries, and that don't require as much maintenance. But again, with the flooded lead acid and with the AGMs, you can only use 50% of the capacity, or you ruin them.
Yeah, that's the part that always gets me. I like the lithium batteries. I like the Battle Born batteries for that reason, that you can use 100%. And for me, it's just, I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to worry that I'm not damaged them just from using them. That's the part that sold me right away on them. It's just that I can use them and not have to worry about damage. I like that. It's worry free.
Yeah.
It's worry free. It's maintenance free. It makes it really easy.
It's like plug and play.
It's very plug and play.
Yeah. And they fit right where your old ones went. So you didn't have to do any modifications or anything.
Yeah. Yep. It was a very easy swap. I always call my system like really, really simple. I literally took my 2 lead acid batteries out and put the 2 Battle Born batteries in, and that was it, because they got the battery monitor system built into their batteries. Like there was nothing. And then I just wired them back up again the way that exactly the same as the other ones were wired. It was really simple. Really simple. And then when I did the portable panel system, I'm not running a whole lot of amps, so I only have the one solar charge controller. I'm not sure if you have multiple for your setup.
I have one, but it's can handle a lot of amps.
Oh, okay. I think I'm maxed out at 30 amps for the solar charger. I don't know.
I think mine's around 120.
Wow. That really can handle a lot.
Yeah.
Then. So how many panels do you have running through this then?
Right now, I just have 860 watts.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, in five panels. Okay. So, and one's a small 80-watt panel, but the other ones are fairly decent size. So I have 860 total going through there.
Okay.
And I guess it's good to mention, like, this fifth wheel that we have now came pre-wired for solar. I'm using air quotes for pre-wired because it's pre-wired, sure, but the cabling in here and the charge controller was all set up for only doing like 15 amp, which for me wasn't enough. So I essentially had to take all that wiring out and put in a new charge controller and put in new wiring for it to meet my needs. So when they say pre-wired for solar, it may be pre-wired, keep your batteries, your lead acid batteries trickle charged or something like that. It may not be pre-wired to do some massive solar setup that you want to do.
That's something good to look for then. So when you changed the wiring, I guess you went with a larger gauge wire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess smaller gauge.
Yeah, smaller number, but larger wire. I get that backwards all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, because what was in here wouldn't handle what I had.
No, that's a good tip though. Just because it says that it's pre-wired for solar, it which is true, it just might not be enough for what you want to run from or run with. Yeah.
Like we don't have a generator, so we needed solar for boondocking, and we preferred not getting a generator because it takes up so much more space. The onboard generators are fuel inefficient in the weight and everything. So we knew we weren't going to get that, and we knew we were going to put a beefier solar system on there, so we wouldn't have to worry about running a generator so much.
Yeah, it's a lot quieter. It's a lot cleaner. There's definitely a lot of advantages to the solar, and it's kind of fun. Because we both have those battery monitor systems, so we can see how much power is coming in. It almost becomes a little compulsive that I know you check yours a lot off, too. You want to see, how much am I pulling in now with a couple clouds in here? How much am I pulling in with all clouds in here,
Yeah.
which is another good reason to have a lot of battery power, because it just seems it's just the way things work. Once you set up your solar system, all of a sudden it's cloudy all the time.
Yeah.
And then you're really relying on your batteries to have that large capacity to make it through until the sun comes back out again. But it just never fails.
And you have 2 Battleborns, right?
I have 2, yeah, at 100 amp a piece.
Yeah, and I think I could actually fit a couple more, and
Mm.
maybe sometime this year I might get a couple more just to have that extra storage.
Yeah.
Because right now, the longest we've gone without just completely off of the solar, without getting a charge in there, is maybe a full day. If it's like completely overcast and we're not making no solars coming through the panels to charge, we can
Okay.
make it maybe a day based on how we use the stuff in our RV.
Yeah, and that's another good point to bring up. Before anybody goes out and decides to get solar, they need to figure out how much power do they use. And it's not an easy way to figure. It's not easy to figure out just how much you use. I think a battery monitor system is probably makes it the easiest way, because you can turn switches on and off, and you can turn your refrigerator on and your furnace on, and you can see how much that pulls. And then you're going to have to try to figure out how much you pull in a normal day.
Right.
And then you can figure out how much solar you will need to get that power back in, and how much battery capacity you'll need to be able to store it all. So that's probably, I guess, the first step that somebody wants to take, is trying to figure out what is their power consumption.
Yeah, I really like the battery monitor. We both have the Victron battery monitor. It's Bluetooth, and you can look at it on your phone, and it makes it really simple to see how much you're actually using.
Yeah. Being able to read it on the phone with my portable set, I'm actually out there like tilting the panels and watching it on my phone, and I tilt them until it gets to the maximum. And then if I go a little too far with the tilt, I can see it come back down again. And then I just bring it right back to that maximum point again. And then now I know I'm good, and I know I'm getting the most I can out of the sun for that time period.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't think about using it that way.
Yeah. And then I go out there. I'm obsessed with it sometimes. And then I'll go back out, midway through the day, and I'll check the panels, and I'll check the battery monitor again, and I'll turn them and I'll tilt them until I get to the highest peak again on the phone, like with the reading. And then if I'm reading that it's coming in with 12 amps per hour, I'm like, oh, that looks good for me. And I leave it set up there.
Yeah, that's
a good little
clever,
trick.
actually. Yeah,
That's clever.
clever. Yeah, because otherwise you'd just be eyeballing it.
Just eyeball it. Yeah, you could kind of maybe use the shadow of the panel to see if the shadow is getting real long. You're probably not adjusted at the right spot. But that's, like Sean said, that's kind of eyeballing it, and it will work. But with the battery monitor, I call it dialing it in. I mean, you're going to dial that number into the best possible angle that you can get.
Maybe a battery monitor's a good battery monitor, not one with just 3 or 4 lights on it.
Yeah, that doesn't do much.
A battery monitor that gives you actual numbers is probably the best thing to get before you get anything else,
That's what I suggest to people too. Yeah, I say the same thing. I think that's the best first move, just to learn about your own power consumptions and mess around with things. See how much power things use. It's surprising sometimes what you might find. I know our LED lights, they really do use a very small amount of power, but I was surprised how much power our TV uses. And it's a little bit more than just the TV, because to use our TV in our main room, we need the inverter. So once you turn the inverter on, that draws a little bit of power.
Yeah.
And then it's the TV on top of that. And Sabrina and I also like to have our surround sound going. So, so we that TV setup pulls a decent amount. We got a 48-inch TV. It uses a lot more power than I was expecting it to. So it was good to have that.
You also have a 12-volt TV.
Yeah, and that uses very little power.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, so the one in our bedroom, because it doesn't go through the inverter or anything, It just has a little switch. You hit the switch, 12-volt power goes to that TV. There's no super surround sound. I mean, it's a smaller TV. Yeah, that doesn't use that. I believe it uses like under 2 amps per hour.
Oh, wow.
It really uses a small, it's like a light bulb almost.
Huh.
Not an LED light bulb, but I think it's like almost like a regular light bulb. It does really well, that little TV in the back. But you can tell it doesn't have the best picture either. The next thing would be maybe talk a little bit about our DIY. Mine was like crazy simple. It was 2 portable panels with a solar controller, charge controller rather, with a solar charge controller. So the panels just plug into that. The solar charge controller plugs into my batteries, and I can move my panels outside. They're not mounted to anything. When I'm not using them, I just fold them up and put them away. You did a little bit more of a permanent, I guess, fixed type of situation. Maybe talk about your situation, Sean.
We got the 4 Battleborn batteries. I wanted enough solar to keep those as charged as possible all the times. We got, like I said, the 5 panels on the roof, and you can get the brackets that allow you to tilt the panels. Mine are just flat because I know I won't get up on the roof and tilt them. And it seems to work fine, but we were parked next to some people when we were boondocking down in Key West, and they tilted their panels, and it made a huge difference compared to what I was getting with what they were getting. So there's definitely benefit to tilting them, but I didn't install the panels that were able to, with the brackets that allowed them to tilt. And then, like I said, I have a bigger charge controller, more than I need actually. I think the most I ever put in is like 30 to 40 amps into my batteries from there. And then I have the big 3,000 watt inverter charger, which not only inverts it to 120, but also will go backwards and charge the batteries when you're plugged into shore power. It has the ability to go from 120 to 12 to charge the batteries. And then the one thing I did that I get most crap for on the internet is I upgraded my converter to a lithium compatible converter. So it charges at the profile for lithium batteries. So it charges faster than a regular converter would. And I get more people telling me that I was dumb for doing that.
In what way dumb?
Because I have the inverter charger, so it will charge the batteries.
Oh, okay.
But I like redundancy.
Yeah.
And so my converter's unplugged most of the time. But if I'm ever in a situation where I need it, I have it and I can charge the batteries.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having backup. That's for sure. And you said that the converter that you picked up is made for lithium batteries, so it charges faster than the stock one anyway.
Yeah.
So does it charge faster than the inverter charger?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that thing is a monster.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does really well.
I didn't upgrade our converter. We have the stock converter. So when we plug in, I think it charges between, I think it puts like 25 amps per hour in, which I don't think is bad. I don't know. No. What's your inverter do you know? I'm just curious for comparison.
I'm guessing around 50 to 60.
Oh yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. So you're doing over double to over double the amount of power, which is nice to get that power back in really quick like that.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned that you didn't set up your panels to tilt. I wouldn't set my panels to tilt either because I'm the same. I think the same way as you, Sean. I'm not getting up on the roof and tilting the panels. I don't think I would bother with it.
Now, if they had some automated system you could hook up.
That'd be nice. But then you're talking extra weight.
Yeah.
Things that go wrong. I'm sure somebody's got one. Yeah, it'd be cool though. Yeah. If I could like hit a remote and have the panels tilt, maybe then I can do that.
But you're putting panels on your roof, is that?
Yep. I'm putting panels up on the roof. I'm going to throw 2 panels up there. They are 160 watts a piece. So I'll have an extra 320 up on the roof and they will not tilt. I'm not getting up there to tilt them. And I also believe that like tilting the panels only is a benefit in wintertime. Does that sound right?
Do people think it helps a lot in wintertime? Yeah, I don't know if it's any benefit in the summer or not.
For some reason, I feel like I read that it only works, or you notice the most amount of benefit anyway, like you're saying. I guess that would be the way to say it. In the wintertime, maybe you can do it in the summertime, but you don't get the same effect from it. Yeah, so I will not be tilting my panels up on the roof. I'm just going to put 2 panels up there. And between the 2 panels up on the roof and the solar down on the ground, we'll run out of water before we run out of power.
And what made you decide to go with the panels on the roof?
That is a great question, Sean. I think some of it had to do with, if we were going to do it, now would be the time to do it while they were giving the kickback. So we bought
the
these,
tax.
tax break.
Yeah.
So we bought them right before the new year. I did not put them up yet. I will. But. So that kind of played in my mind. I was like, well, if we're going to add more solar, then let's do it before they take away this tax break. And the other thing was that we thought that we were going to do a lot of more boondocking this winter. And it turns out it didn't work out that way. But I was like, well, if we're going to be doing more boondocking, Sabrina and I are both spoiled, and we want to live like we're plugged in. We don't want to, I mean, even now we know that we don't run out of power. We're not, but I still monitor it. I still pay attention to it. I still like slap Sabrina's hand when she leaves the inverter on for too long. Like, I feel like if you're not using it, turn it off. If it doesn't need to be on, let's turn the inverter off, because why waste that power if we don't have to?
Right.
But if we put these panels up on the roof, plus our portable ones, she can do whatever she wants to do. And I don't yell at her anymore for wasting power. I don't follow her around her and turn lights off. Or if she wants to turn the TV on and leave it on, that's fine too.
Will you upgrade the inverter so she can use the microwave?
No. Nope. No, because we don't need it. We have the propane stove and we have a propane oven
and propane refrigerator.
So, I mean, the only thing the microwave does is just make things a little faster, more convenient. I don't know. I'm not even going to let her listen to this episode now, because she'll be like, why don't we upgrade our inverter so we can run the microwave? Well, I've thought about it. Maybe, but I don't think so. We'll see. That'll probably be the next thing, Sean.
Yeah, it was smart to get your panels before because this year it goes down. I think the tax breaks. I think it was like 30%. Now it goes down to 27 or something like that.
Yeah, it actually didn't drop as much as I thought. I thought maybe it was going to be a bigger drop off, so that's why we kind of rushed and got them. I'm glad it didn't drop off too much. 27% is still nice.
Yeah,
it's a nice little deal, and it doesn't cost you so much.
Yeah, and when I was sort of building my system, that's another great thing about the folks at Battleborn Batteries is that they're not just experts in the batteries. They know a lot about all the other components you need that will work best with those batteries. And they're not just trying to sell you stuff if you don't need it. So I worked with them a lot, lots of phone calls, and they were able to tell me if I was doing something stupid or not when I was getting ready to install it. I thought that was very helpful.
Yeah. And we've done that show. We did Quartzsite with those guys last year. And Sean Nichols, one of the owners of Battleborn, he's funny because he was talking people out of purchasing too much. I remember being at the show with him, and somebody would say, well, I want 4 of your batteries. And he said, well, what are you replacing them? What are you doing with them? And the person would tell them what their setup was. And he's like, he's like, honestly, I'll sell you the 4 batteries if you want, but you don't need 4 batteries for what you're talking about. I said, he would be honest with them and say, look, 2 batteries are going to give you more than what you need them to do. Same thing with the inverters and other components that they sell. He was not talking people out of the purchasing, because he would say, look, I'll sell you anything. If you want to buy it, I'm going to sell it to you. But I don't feel you need it, and you can always upgrade more later if you find out you do need it. I like those guys a lot. I always have. They're really good people.
I guess another thing we should talk about when you're doing the DIY stuff is safeties, making sure you have the right size fuses, making sure you have the cutoffs in the right place in case there's a problem. You got to think about all that stuff, because the last thing you want is to have a fire or have your wires melt or something. You want to have the right safety stuff in place. And there's lots of diagrams from experts on the internet that you can look at to see where they put their safety stuff, but also read the manuals for all your components, because all mine said you should have a fuse here, you should have a fuse there, so, and the size of the fuse depends on how much electricity you're running through there and stuff. So safety is definitely something to consider.
Yep. Very good points also. So I think that is everything that we had to share about solar, Sean's setup, as well as my own setup and what our experiences are. Hopefully we were able to help you guys maybe feel a little bit more confident, or just get a better idea of why maybe you would want solar. And we just want to wish everybody safe travels. And next episode is going to be with Travis Carr, president of Escapees RV Club on. And we're going to be talking about the RVers boondocking policy. What that is, it's going to be very simple rules of how to be good neighbors to everybody while boondocking, not just for the people, but for the wildlife, as well as the environment. We want to make sure that we're taking care of these properties while we're out at BLM land, and that we're not harming ourselves in the future by possibly having this property taken away from us. So this goes in really well, actually, because next episode, we're going to be talking all about boondocking and quiet hours, and maybe how solar can actually help you stay in those quiet hours and still enjoy all the powers in your RV. Be sure to come back and check out that episode with Travis.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Safe travels. This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety. So go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.